I wish everyone could come up here because you feel like a rock star. It's amazing. And I'm trying to feel like a rock star because I'm coming up after such amazing people. Movie directors and fantastic musicians, and it's a little intimidating because I come here from a different world. I come here a bit more from the corporate world, but I'm really thrilled to be here. I was so excited to get the call from Alper, so I'd like to thank MCT. I'd like to thank JTI for having me here. So I'm going to talk fast because there's so much I want to say, and this 20-minute format is new to me. So I'm going to just explain a bit who I am. So I'm going to talk directly to the HR people in this room. So the name of our company is Sweetman Craigan, and we do leadership development. We call it Leadership for a World in Motion. And the reason why is because we do live in a strange time. And that is what we've all been talking about for the last 2 days. We live in a time when so many institutions are changing, and we're sort of between things, and technology is coming, and geopolitical changes are happening, and how people think about work and how they think about life is all different. And so how do you manage that? How do you lead that, right? Is everyone here facing that in their work? So that's what we do. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of a background about me so that you'd understand where I come from. So the major part of the work that we've done is really corporate work, like what you do. And so I'm based in Boston. We're based in Boston, but we do work in the US and Europe, and actually a lot in the Middle East, South Asia, and Asia. And I actually lived in Malaysia for 3 years recently, and so we have kind of a broad exposure. So I just tell you that because I want you to know that what I'm going to be talking about is very much grounded in, this world that we live in, this corporate experience that we live in, and I hope I can start to translate a lot of the ideas that we've been hearing over the past 2 days in there. Also significantly, because I love what I'm hearing from other people who are up here on stage who talk about other places that they're experiencing leadership, other places that they're experiencing life. And I've had a big commitment to a place called the Legatum Center, which is at MIT. And it's a place for people who are students at MIT, but who are from the developing world. So places like Rwanda, Vietnam, Colombia, India, Thailand, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, to come, who want to go back to their home countries and make a big difference and do it through the vehicle of a for-profit company, a startup, an enterprise, but that has a social responsibility to it. So I have been able to help coach fantastic young people who are working in things like clean water, clean air, rural electrification, women's rights, teaching women to be entrepreneurs. So it's been tremendous. So I draw from all of these different experiences, in the work that I do. And the thing that I love about the Legatum Center, I learned so much about it. And this guy who you see up here in the image is Iqbal Qadir. He's a Bangladeshi guy. And he founded the Legatum Center. And from him, I have had reinforced how much human motivation, just your mindset, your own attitude makes all the difference in what you can do in life. And that the more that we can enable people to have barriers taken away, as much as support's put in, the more people can really actualize who they are. So I love this quote, which I've paraphrased a little bit, and he said, remember, he's coming from Bangladesh. So he said, success is not created, when he says success, he means country success, is not created by the Ford Foundation giving out grants. It comes from people working hard and pursuing their dreams. And this drives an economy, and this creates a middle class, and this creates political power for the common man. So this is all part of the background that I bring even into my corporate work. So just to summarize, in 2009, I co-authored a book with some great people, and the question we asked there is, what is it that all leaders who are successful do in common? Because you can look at leadership from different places. You can look at it in the military, you can look at it in education, you can look at it in a corporation, you can look at it in education, anywhere that there needs to be leadership. And it all looks different. You can be confused by what leadership is, because people appear to be doing it differently, but actually a lot of what they're doing is the same. And so the book, The Leadership Code, is about what is it that all leaders who succeed do that's the same. And then in 2014, I was living and working in Malaysia. I worked for a think tank run by the Malaysian Central Bank. And the question there is, in Asia, what is it that all leaders do that get followers excited about them? And so we found the commonalities there too. And then our book, Reinvention, that came out this summer, it was really about, okay, that's good and that's necessary, but what's different in this age? And so a little bit of what I'm going to talk about today in this short time has to do with that we do need to do things different in this age. And then we're coming out with a book next year. So I'm just giving you a really brief history of sort of where I'm coming from and why I believe what I believe and why I want to share what I want to share, because we've done a lot of work and I'll try to reach a lot of understanding about, what leadership is and what's effective, no matter where you are, and then what do we need to do in this day and age. But not all of my examples, not all my examples are actually from the business world. And in fact, the story that I want to tell you today, in this great lineup of storytelling we've had for 2 days, is actually about a guy. His name is Tom Shaw. He's in the United States, and he is a high school physics teacher. And I have come to believe that he is actually one of the best examples of leadership that I've ever encountered. And I encountered him because he's actually my daughter's track coach, cross-country and track coach. And this guy came into this high school, Milton High, in Milton, Massachusetts, and he took a bunch of girls who were pretty average, low, not high aspiration, just out there to have a good time. And within 18 months, they went from being completely average to being national champions. National champions. And we, as the parents, stood there and watched and said, how did this happen? How did it come to be? That actually my daughter, who never even ran before, is suddenly competing at the national level in the 4x800 relay. It's astonishing. And so I thought, well, that's pretty amazing. And the penny really dropped for me, and I said, I want to know what this man does. And in fact, we've created a documentary about him, which isn't quite ready, but we've actually done a documentary about this guy. Because what my daughter wrote in her college application, when she was talking about what she learned about leadership in her life, she said, this guy, Tom Shaw, a high school physics teacher, makes us better together than we are apart because he creates a culture of love and we all want to belong to it. Can you imagine? In your high school. We all want to belong to that, and we run for each other, and we want to be our personal best for each other. Isn't that amazing? And this is an American high school where everybody's competing against each other to get into a great college, right? But somehow he overcomes all that. And so when I read this, and when I saw these outcomes, I said, I got to know this guy. And I went in and I actually interviewed him, and I said, Tom, how are you so good at what you do? And he said, well, I don't really know. So we started to unpeel his onion because he's such an intuitive leader. And he said, when I think about it, anybody can read what a training schedule should be, right? I mean, there's books about that. And we all know what it is athletes should be eating. So it's not about the nutrition. He said, I really need to figure out what I'm doing. And then we went and talked to the girls, and here's what he really does. What this guy does so extraordinarily, so much better than anybody, and as I talk about this, I want you to think about your teams, okay? I want you to think about your companies, or think about your family, or think about whoever it is you're trying to influence through your own leadership. And what he does, the first thing he does is he gets to know his girls really well. Not only does he know what they're good at and what they're bad at, he knows what they aspire to, he knows what their fears are, he knows what's going on in their personal life, right? And he has them all understand each other in the same way. And so when they are about to enter into a competition, when they're on the bus heading to Framingham, or when they're in their own field waiting for Norwood to come to have their big match, right? They actually all sit around in a circle, and they all say, I'm Rose, and here's what I want to accomplish today. Here's my intention for today. And here's what I'm afraid of. here's what I'm worried about. And then all the other girls comment on that. They say, Rose, you're great, you'll be fine, or just remember, you're a great finisher, so save some energy for the end. And they actually do that. And if you're not out there competing, then you're watching and cheering. And it's so amazing what he has created for these girls, because they really do have a culture of love that they all want to belong to. And I don't know about you, but I've been in a lot of different corporations, and I haven't seen a lot of culture of love out there. I haven't seen a lot of people sitting around their team meetings saying, here's what I'm hoping to do, and here's what I'm afraid of, and having people around them say, it's okay, you're going to do great, and I'm actually going to be there to cheer you on. He's also a fabulous strategist. He knows what's going on outside. There's a lot of other things that he does well. He has this encyclopedic knowledge of who can do what and what everybody does. But overall, his magic is that he gets them to care so much about each other. And he does that through his own role modeling. The other thing you got to know is, remember, they're going for a national championship, right? But everybody plays. So unlike other teams where they have these stars, and the stars all get to do everything, everybody plays. So there's nobody who's ever left out. So it's absolutely amazing. So he is a model that I use. And here's what somebody said: T-Shaw changed me. I see how to set goals and achieve them inch by inch. I never imagined I could do what I was able to achieve. I did not even realize how much I limited my own thinking until this man showed me the way. He's changed my life forever. I see myself as a leader now, and I never did before. So if you want to know in HR what power we've got to help change people's lives, imagine if we can help to create that in our own people. And there's ways that we can do that directly, and there's ways that we can do that by working on the leaders, the managers, the people who are also influencing people directly. So that's a lot of the kind of work that we do. So our opportunity as HR leaders is somehow to use these current conditions that we're in and use them as a positive jumping off point for forward momentum. And my guess is that conditions are kind of tough in a lot of the companies that we're in right now, right? Am I correct? It's not a boom time in Turkey, right? So it's very easy for people to think, oh, I can't succeed. Or it's very easy for people to think, well, we can't go forward. And what I think we need to do when we're in those situations is to ask ourselves how much of our life, how much of our team, how much of our company's success is going to depend on conditions. And sometimes, like that lady in northern India who said, she's an untouchable or whatever, she's got conditions around here that I would never even, I can't blame her for anything in her life. But for the rest of us who don't live in the bottom of the pyramid, for those of us who are living in different places, we have more decision-making capability than we often realize, or that we often exercise. Isn't that true? Because it's easy to think that the conditions are what are determining our situation in life, when in fact it's the decisions that are determining our situation in life. And that's what I heard so loud and clear from those girls who said, this coach changed my life because he helped me believe in myself and let me realize that I could set goals I never imagined. So I want to take this back. This is my quick political statement. Okay, I have a quick political statement. You know that I'm from the United States, and we all are wondering how on earth we're in the situation that we're in right now. So I recently read this book, and it's called Hillbilly Elegy. And I was told to read it because it said it would explain what happened. It would explain what happened, why a large group of people would actually vote in the direction of change for the sake of change. And what I read about it, what I read in there was so powerful because it talks about group dynamic. It talks about what happens to a group that feels disempowered. So again, if you're in a company where people feel like there isn't a lot of hope because of conditions, I want you to think about this. Because in Hillbilly Elegy, what the guy said was, when people get into a place where they do not trust the information that's coming at them, and where they do not believe that they can actually make any sort of difference because everything is, rigged around them, and when as a group they believe that and they reinforce each other and they don't allow each other to excel like those girls in that team, then they stop believing that hard work pays off, and they stop believing that they can make a decision. They start believing it's all about conditions, and they give up. And when they then start to fail, then they blame the outside even more, and it becomes this extremely negative spiral. So the reason why I think it's so important, especially if we're in a time of recession here or difficulty, it's very, very, very important, particularly in our roles in HR, that we take seriously that we can influence that mindset. And it's actually our job to influence that mindset. And when we do that, we'll not only benefit the company, we'll benefit all those people around us who are working and who need to feel positively about life. So I think the question for us as a collective in HR is, what can we do to strengthen our tribe, right? What can we do to make our people feel, how can we collectively approach taking whatever situation we're in and saying, okay, you know what, maybe we're not in a place where everyone can be happy because we're giving out goodies like gym memberships, but maybe what we can do is help our people to collectively come together and say, okay, we have some rocks that we need to move, you know, how can we figure out to move them together and really make it a collective energy around how we're going to be moving forward, just like T-Shaw and his girls. In fact, they became such a collective that even when they had a strength, like running the 800 meter, and the coach said, no, you know what, I know that you could win the 800 meter, but I actually need you to run this other thing because of how the point system works, they would gladly give that up and go do something else because the team is what mattered. So it's just amazing what can happen when you get that attitude underway. So engagement isn't simply about making everybody happy. Engagement is about giving them this collective purpose that isn't so much their individual purpose as their individual purpose married to the larger purpose. Does that make sense? Yeah. So we have a formula that we use. It sounds a little bit simplistic, perhaps, to reduce something as major as change to a formula. But we find that this is extremely helpful for people because there's all this chaos around us. And what this does is it helps us to make some sense of it. So this is how we think about change. We promised you 5 steps to change, right, in this talk. The 5 steps to change are basically, we need to recognize that we have a dissatisfaction in the room. And we're going to actually harness that dissatisfaction, not let it derail us, right? So an example of the girls running, I'm not running as fast as I could. That's dissatisfaction, right? I could run faster. And then we have to give a sense of future, right? What is the alternative future that excites us? So again, in our roles, what is an alternative future we could possibly have? Let's not just stay mired in the dissatisfaction. Let's go toward what the future can be. And then, very importantly, what are all the things that need to align around that for that to happen? Because if you try to make a change happen and you don't change all the conditions that are around it, and probably you know this well from your NATO experience, it's going to snap back into wherever it is it was. You need to make a lot of other changes happen. So in the case of the girls and their running, you have to change your diet. You have to change when you're going to sleep. You have to change your social experience, right? You have to change a lot of things because otherwise you're not actually going to excel. So in the company, that means you got to look at all your systems, all your processes, all your culture, everything that's got to happen. And then you've got to execute against it because unless people start to see some kind of positive difference, even a very small thing, it's not going to happen because there's only so much sustaining. And the L in this equation is leadership. The L in this equation is that when you want those things to happen, you've got the dissatisfaction, you've got the sense of future, you've made the changes around it, and you've got things going. You need a leader. You need somebody who's going to be out there over and over and over again, reinforcing, reinforcing, reinforcing. This is what we're going to do, and it's all going to happen. If you know, I mean, this is an old story, but the IBM story, I particularly love it. When Lou Gerstner was changing IBM, he was out there every day talking. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do. And are you in or are you out? And that is what made the difference. And when you look at major change initiatives like that, that's what makes the difference. And the thing that you're always battling when you're trying to make change happen is the perceived cost of change on the part of the people who are being asked to change. So, for example, those girls, if ultimately all they wanted to do is party, you know, or drink, or do something that is not athletic, if that value to them was much, much greater than everything else, then that would never change. So when you're going through a change process, you also have to identify what are the sources of, what are the perceived costs of change on the part of people, and start to have to break those down. So I know this was a very quick run-through of these ideas. In fact, there's a cool company that just went online just today in Turkey, called Elver, and they actually help HR people to identify NGOs that they can point their people to help them to develop leadership skills as well, which is another way of helping to engage your people. So, but anyway, my time is up. This was a quick run through. Thank you for your attention. I hope this was of interest to you, and I'd love to stay in touch. So thank you, TCM. Thank you, JTI. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn and Twitter, and I'd love to hear from you.